Alaska is the largest of the 50 states. Our trip initially took us to Anchorage, and then from Anchorage it was on to Dillingham. Dillingham, Alaska being really a salmon fishing town that's on the edge of the Togiak National Forest. This Google map shows that Lake Aleknagik, which is where our lodge was a series of about 5 lakes in southwestern Alaska. Away from Anchorage we went, and then flew into Dillingham with a nice view of Lake Aleknagik, which is a spectacularly beautiful setting. You can see here that almost everybody that travels in Alaska either travels by boat or travels by float plane. Here the boat out to Bristol Bay Lodge. Here's a nice view of the lodge itself and the several cabins that the guests stayed in. Almost every day we would fly out on a float plane or sometimes take a short boat ride. Our first flight out was to Rainbow Camp. Here our airplane taking off, and as we flew across the Togiak National Forest, this beautifully spectacular setting with very remote. Rainbow Camp itself is a series of tents with a dining room and very nice accommodations. Here we are flying into Rainbow Camp. As you can see out the window, the 5 or 6 little outbuildings that were there. We landed on a lake on the other side of the hill as Chris, the pilot, safely puts down our Beaver de Havilland. We arrived safely, and here the gang is getting ready to go fishing. The tents that we were in were relatively Spartan, but still quite comfortable. And once we'd unpacked and gotten our gear ready, this is the view that we have out of the front of the tents. This, again, spectacular river. And then up the Tuki River to our initial fishing place for silver salmon. Here,
oh yeah, let him run,
Lisa with
let
a
him run,
nice
let him
silver
run.
salmon on, which she's carefully reeling in, and she finally gets it. Here it is coming to the net. You can kind of see it dimly underwater. But the fish was successfully netted. And although there's a little water on the lens, you can see her big smile as this nice silver salmon was brought in. Uncle Mac also caught some nice silver salmon with his fly rod, his first salmon on a fly rod. And yours truly also caught a couple, which you can see a nice smile there. Then we headed up the river to do fish for Dolly Varden.
Pull him over to your
Your Uncle
right.
Mac has a nice fish on. You can see him struggling to try to reel it in. But this beautiful Dolly Varden, one of the biggest of the summer, nice 30-inch fish. This was a spectacular catch. Lisa and I also caught some, but not quite as large as Uncle Mac's was. Then we headed back to Bristol Bay Lodge. The view from the lodge at sunset, really spectacular, but the views out of the lodge at dawn were equally spectacular, as you can see here on Lake Aleknagik. At this point, the boys were able to join us, and Reed and I were successful with northern pike, catching a bunch on the lake, and then we headed up to the Lake Nurka and the rivers that connect the two lakes. And you can see that the salmon were really just stacked up there, waiting to spawn. And what the signal that they had was waiting to hollow out the gravel. You can see there were just literally thousands of them waiting for the time to lay their eggs and fertilize them. The fishing was then quite good. A couple of rainbows, as you can see here, that Reed and I caught, in addition to a couple of grayling as well. The morning's fishing was punctuated by a shore lunch. As you can see here, the picture from Mac's drone, which unfortunately got lost on the other side of the river, but it was recovered. Then we flew out to another river for afternoon fishing. Uncle Mac had to return to Louisville, but the Dolly Varden fishing was really quite good, as you can see. Son Mac netting a nice one here. Beautiful Dolly Varden. And then Lisa
girl,
also
bring 'em on in.
catching a nice Dolly Varden here at the edge of the stream. Reed was really hooking into some big ones and had to really fight to bring his fish in. And then this was also punctuated by a nice shore lunch, as you can see us here relaxing. Nice then it was off to Birch Camp as the plane takes off with the guides and gear. And as we can see us circling around Birch Camp. And once we arrived, we headed upriver where Reed caught a couple of nice rainbow trout and some nice Dolly Varden, and yours truly also caught a nice rainbow, a nice 20-inch rainbow. This was the end of the trip for us, and here's a nice picture of Mac out on the stream by himself, and then the next day, this spectacular dawn. So we had a wonderful time in Alaska.